Welcome to video 2 of this 2-part video series where I break down step by step the process of wholesaling and flipping so that anyone can understand. So if you're new to wholesaling or flipping, this video will help you understand the big picture and the whole process. Get ready to learn an oversimplified explanation about how to flip real estate coming up.
This video is brought to you by 10K Club, a program that pays you $10,000 for finding ugly houses. Learn more at my10kcheck.com.
If you're new here to this channel, I'm Jerry Norton with FlippingMastery.com, and this channel is all about ways to help you make money wholesaling and flipping real estate so you can live your dream life. Be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss new videos. In video 1, I explained the mechanics of a real estate transaction between a buyer and a seller and the process of assigning or flipping a contract known as wholesaling. Now, I also use this blueprint to illustrate how to take the strategy of wholesaling and flipping and systematize the steps so that it can be repeated on a consistent basis. Now, the only way to create a sustainable 6-figure and even 7-figure income is to create processes and systems, and this blueprint outlines how to do that. In video 1, I explained all of the steps of acquisitions, which is everything it takes to acquire the contract on a distressed property with a motivated seller. By the way, if you missed video 1 or need a refresher, pause this video, go watch video 1, and then come back and watch this video. Now, I'll put the link to that video in the description below for you. On this part 2 video, I'm going to explain the process and the steps that happen after you get a contract with a motivated seller, and then break down for you how to systematize those steps so that it can be repeated again and again. Let's start with wholesaling. If you recall from video 1, wholesaling is when you assign your purchase and sale contract between you and the seller to another investor we call a cash buyer. The cash buyer steps in and takes over your place in the contract for a fee. Now, what's great about an assignment is there is still just one closing transaction, and you, the wholesaler, don't have to bring any funds to closing. Here's a 5-step breakdown of what it looks like. Step 1 is to execute a purchase and sale agreement with a motivated seller, let's say for $50,000. Step 2 is to open escrow. Now, to do that, give your wholesaler-friendly title company a copy of the contract and their earnest money, let's say of $500. At that point, the title company will do a title search and start preparing for the close of escrow. Now, step 3 is to find a cash buyer and execute an assignment agreement for, let's say, $60,000. Step 4 is to give the same title company a copy of the assignment contract and the cash buyer's earnest money of, let's say, $3,000. Step 5 is the close of escrow. On that day, the cash buyer will fund $60,000, of which $50,000 goes to the seller and $10,000 goes to you, the wholesaler. Now, this is an oversimplified explanation of a single closing assignment. Now, there are situations where you are unable to do an assignment, such as when the purchase and sale agreement has a no assignment clause, or you may choose to strategically not do an assignment and instead double close the transaction to prevent your cash buyer from seeing how much you're making on the deal. Now, here's what the 5 steps look like when doing a double closing. Steps 1 and 2 are exactly the same, where you execute a contract with a seller for, let's say, $50,000, and then you open escrow. And now in step 3, when you find a cash buyer, instead of doing an assignment, you execute a purchase and sale agreement for, let's say, $60,000. In fact, it's the same contract you used with the seller. Step 4 is the same. Give the same title company a copy of the purchase and sale agreement with that cash buyer and their earnest money of, let's say, $3,000. And then step 5 is the close of escrow, but instead of one closing, there are now 2 closings. Closing 1 is between the seller and you for $50,000, and closing 2 is between you and the cash buyer for $60,000. Now, since the cash buyer doesn't see what you bought the property for during closing 1, he doesn't know how much you made on the deal. What's different about a double closing is, in this scenario, you, the wholesaler, would need to bring $50,000 to fund closing 1 as the buyer and pay closing fees, and then immediately you would turn around and do closing 2, this time as the seller, where you sell the property to the cash buyer for $60,000 and again pay closing fees. So the disadvantages of a double closing are that you have to come to closing 1 with the cash to pay the seller and pay closing fees on both closings, which cuts into your overall profits on the deal. Now, I did a really detailed video about a hack strategy to do what's called a double closing in escrow, where you use the funds from the cash buyer in closing 2 to fund the purchase in closing 1. Now, it's really cool and allows you to double close without having to bring money to the deal. Definitely check that video out. I'll put the link in the description below. The reason why wholesaling is such a fantastic strategy is because it allows you to make money in real estate without taking on the risk of owning properties, and it allows you to make money without taking on the bandwidth to manage properties. Now, the idea is you take a small sliver of the equity or profit out of the deal up front, and then you pass on the lion's share of the profit for the next guy who takes on the risk and does the work to make a bigger profit later and over time. Now, if that sounds really appealing to you, then wholesaling is the perfect strategy. Now, I, however, take a different approach to the business. You see, I believe there are some deals that are worth taking on the risk and the bandwidth to fix and flip instead of wholesaling. For example, let's say that you get a contract with a seller on a great deal, and instead of wholesaling it for $10,000, let's say that you could feasibly buy it, fix it up, and resell it, and potentially make a $70,000 profit. Now, I say potentially because everything has to go right, and you keep your rehab on budget, and it sells for as much as you anticipated. But let's say it works out, and you can make $70,000 doing a fix and flip. Might that deal make more sense to fix and flip and make $70,000 instead of wholesaling it and only making $10,000? Now, there is no right or wrong answer. The trade-off is less work for less profit, wholesaling, for more work for more profit, fix and flip. Really good wholesalers will argue that they can wholesale 8 contracts for $10,000 each in less time, energy, and effort as it takes to fix and flip one deal that makes $70,000. Now, if that were the case, then wholesaling the contract for $10,000 is a smarter move. But my belief and my business model is to become an expert at both wholesaling and fix and flip, then cherry pick the best deals to fix and flip and wholesale the rest. Now, today, after 16 years and after doing thousands of deals, I've continually increased my internal profit threshold on fix and flip deals. For example, I have a deal right now that I bought for $600,000. My rehab budget is $450,000, so I'll be all into the deal for $1,050,000, and the ARV on the property that I hope to sell it for is $1.7 million to $2 million. Now, that's a $650,000 to $950,000 gross profit on just one deal. So doing deals at that level requires a serious knowledge of luxury real estate and major remodeling. But the point is, fix and flip is where you can make a bigger profit. So I recommend the new flippers to start with a minimum of $40,000 profit on a fix and flip. In other words, if the deal doesn't realistically pencil out to make a net profit of $40,000, then don't take it on as a fix and flip. It's not worth the time, energy, and effort. It's not worth the risk and tying up the bandwidth to manage a rehab project. Instead, wholesale it and move on. As time goes on and as you get better and better at fix and flip and your risk tolerance increases, raise your internal profit threshold and start doing bigger deals, and who knows, maybe you even start doing multi-million-dollar flips. And if fix and flip sounds exciting to you, be sure to watch a video where I share 7 tips to rehab your first property. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. Now, the reason why you need to be selective about which deals you fix and flip is because fix and flip does require more risk and more bandwidth, like I said. So let me explain. Unlike wholesaling, where you don't own the property, with fix and flip, you actually buy the property and take title or ownership. In order to buy the property, you need to either risk your own money or you need to get a rehab loan and buy the property and risk someone else's money. Now, once you buy the property and take ownership, now you need to fix it up, which means more money goes into the deal to pay for materials and contractors. Now, I do almost all of my deals with 100% funding. That means I borrow all of the money to buy the property and fix it up. I did a video that explains exactly how to do fix and flip deals with 100% funding, link in the description. In addition to the financial risk, fix and flip also requires a big time commitment on your part to manage contractors to make sure the rehab gets done quickly, correctly, and on budget. Now, this requires an intimate knowledge of what should be fixed up, how much you should pay to get those things fixed up, and how to properly hire and manage contractors to do the work. Once the property is fixed up, it's time to market it for sale, and the best way to do that is to hire a local real estate agent who will list the property for sale on market so retail buyers find out about it. And once you receive a satisfactory offer from a retail buyer, hopefully at your desired sale price, you execute a contract and then close on the sale 30 to 45 days later. Now, once the deal sells, your net profit is whatever is left after subtracting the cost to buy the property, the cost of repairs, plus don't forget insurance and utilities and property taxes and commissions, closing fees and financing costs, all of the expenses incurred to buy, manage, and sell the property. Now, after all of that, what's left is your net profit. And to make sure you're not getting in over your head and that you have a healthy profit on the deal, shoot for a 15% profit margin. So here's a typical profit breakdown on a fix and flip deal. Once you sell the property for the after repair value, first you're going to subtract the purchase price you paid to buy the property, then you're going to subtract the rehab cost, which also includes insurance and utilities, permits, etc. And then you're going to subtract closing costs, which come out to about 9% of the ARV. This covers commissions, title search, title insurance, escrow fees, prorations, property transfer tax, etc. Then you're going to subtract carrying costs, which come to about 6% of ARV, and this is the cost to borrow the money, including payments until it sells. And then finally, you're going to subtract your 15% profit margin. So for example, let's say that the ARV sale price is $450,000. Let's say that you bought the property for $260,000. Your rehab costs $55,000. And let's say that you had closing costs of 9% that came to $40,500. And your carrying cost of 6% came to $27,000. And then your profit of 15% came to $67,500. Knowing these numbers, you can create a formula to determine the desired buy price when making offers on deals. This is known as the 70% formula. Now, since closing costs are 9% of ARV, carrying costs are 6% of ARV, and profit is 15% of ARV on average, then before doing anything else, you need to take 30% off the top on every deal. So before we even spend a dime rehabbing the house, we need to buy the property for 30% below ARV or 70% of ARV. Then subtract the rehab cost to get the desired buy price. Here's what that formula looks like. ARV times 70% minus repairs equals the buy price. So if ARV is $300,000 and repairs are $30,000, the formula would be $300,000 times 70% less $30,000 for repairs equals $180 as the buy price. Now what's great is I created a deal analyzer tool that instantly does all of these calculations for you. If you'd like to get that for free, just leave a comment and say, Jerry, you are a flipping genius. Please share with me your free deal analyzer tool and I'll give you the download link. So let's take a look at our six-figure business blueprint and put all of the pieces together and talk about the necessary processes to create a sustainable business wholesaling and flipping houses. And if you'd like this blueprint for free as a resource, I'll put the link to download that for free in the description below. So once you get a contract with a seller, you have to decide to either wholesale the deal or fix and flip the deal. If you decide to wholesale it, there are two major functions. One is building a cash buyer list. This is a list of local active cash buyer investors in your market. Now, the more buyers you have and the bigger the list, the easier it is and the faster you can wholesale deals. Now, I believe you build your list as you go, and I did a video where I break down step by step how to build a massive cash buyer list. Link to that video in the description. The second function of wholesaling is structuring single closing assignments. Now this includes the paperwork, opening escrow, and closing on transactions. If you decide to fix and flip the deal, there are three distinct functions that you must get good at doing. First is funding. In order to grow a fix and flip business, you must continually and constantly raise capital for deals. Like I mentioned earlier, I do most of my deals with 100% funding, and I spend time every single week in my business cultivating existing relationships with my lenders and creating new relationships. No matter how much funding I have, I'm always looking for more and cheaper money. Now to help you get started, I put together a funding kit that shows you how to raise all the money you need for deals. To get that for free, just go to myfundingkit.com. The second key function to fix and flip is managing the rehab. Now there's the right way to manage your rehab and there's the wrong way to manage your rehab. Do it wrong and it will consume all of your time, you'll go way over budget and you'll have shoddy work. Do it right and you'll get your projects done on time and on budget with little to no drama. Now there are several different ways to manage your rehab. I did a video where I explained those different methods in detail, link in the description. It's critical you learn proper rehab management so you can scale and grow the business. And the third key function to fix and flip is marketing and sales. This is the process to get that newly renovated home sold to a retail buyer for top dollar. Now to do this, I teach how to get a top selling agent in your market to list and sell your property almost for free. It's a really cool technique that I use even on my multi-million-dollar deals. Now to learn that technique, check out that video, link in the description. And if you take a step back and look at all of the moving parts to wholesaling and flipping, There is a very clear order to how things are done, and there are specific steps and processes to follow. Now, the ideal business has an acquisitions manager that oversees all of the acquisitions and an operations manager to oversee all of the operations. And for those of you who are really serious about building a 6- and 7-figure business, be sure to check out my mentor and partner program called Fast Track. This is where I personally train you and help you set up this business in your market with a very clear 90-day action plan on how to start doing 3 to 5 deals a month like clockwork. Now, we even partner together on your first couple of deals, so that way you earn while you learn. If that sounds interesting to you, then register for a free training where I go over all the details. Go to fasttrackwithjerry.com to check it out. Now, nothing teaches better than actually seeing it real time. So what I want you to do next is watch this 3-part video series where I show you a real live deal I wholesaled from start to finish. You get to watch me and look over my shoulder as I explain everything and show you firsthand. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. With over 500 videos, this is your #1 resource for all things wholesaling and flipping, and I'll see you on the next video.